Hey everybody, got an interesting one for you here today. I was doing a cold start the other morning. It was just below 30, I think. And I started getting some smoke through the passenger side air vents on the inside. And it had like an electrical smell to it. So started to do some troubleshooting. Took a look underneath the glove box at the blower motor. That one seemed to be running fine, nothing coming out of there. Tried to look up inside where the flaps are. That seemed to be actuating properly and everything. So what I ended up finding was that the alternator was spitting flames and smoke. Not sure when that happened, how it got overloaded, or what. That cold morning I did turn everything on, both seat heaters and the defrost and heat on high, so it may have overloaded the system or something, I don't know. But anyway, shooting sparks. I wish I had a video of it, but I'm not going to recreate it because I don't want to damage anything electrical on here, because there's all kinds of modules, right? So what we're looking at is an alternator replacement here, and from what I can tell in the manual, we need to remove this airbox, and it'll kind of come up out that way. Underneath, you can see a little bit here. There's 2 bracket bolts, and on the back side is 1 lead that's bolted on, and then 1 electrical connector that's a clip-in. So we'll need to remove those 2 things, as well as the serpentine belt. Now what you're going to need for the serpentine belt is this T60. And where that goes is on the driver's side. In the States anyway, there's a tensioner right here. Actually, it's the second one below here, right down there. And what you do is you put this T60 in this socket right here, and that'll allow you to rotate it, loosening the belt and removing it. And release it, and then your serpentine belt is loose and can be pulled out of there. If you're worried about getting it on the right way, I would take a picture of the front end of the engine. Sometimes in the engine compartment it'll have a picture of how it should be routed. I don't see that on this vehicle. I am removing this upper air pipe just to get some better access to the mounting bolts if need be. Comes out pretty easy. Then to remove the airbox, got the MAF filter. That connector removes. Got these 2 clips on top. We've got this spring-loaded clip here. Be careful that that stays on that lip that it's on, otherwise it's kind of a pain to get back on there. Air filter come out.
Here, $100 an hour.
good too. So here's the lead we took off and the connector, and then I think I'm going to take this grounding strap off to have a little more room in here, and then there's some play in these tubes. I should be able to get it out that way. For the grounding strap, you'll need an M9 triple square socket, which you'll probably be best off getting a set of those anyway to work on this thing. That's also what you need for a removing the driver's seat to get to the battery, because you definitely want to do that before you start disconnecting these wires down here. Just remember to put those back on when you're reassembling everything. Alright, the radiator fan's coming out for hopefully removing the alternator out of the front. In order to do that, I had to remove the cooling line, I had to remove this intake pipe, and a couple of hoses back here just for easier access. I had to disconnect a couple of bolts from the bottom where this intake pipe is connected to the bottom of the radiator fan. Now there's two little tabs on either side, and then across the top. On both sides. And voila. Alright. Now we should have room to bring the radiator or the alternator out the front of this. Alright, so that was not as easy as prescribed, but also not too difficult. The fan shroud comes out pretty easy. Alright, now we'll put the new one back in. Alright, while I had all this space in the front here, I went ahead and replaced the idle pulleys that I had. There was a little bit of shaft play in a couple of them, so I figured why not. There's room in it right now. If you want to do that, those get tightened down to 23 Newton meters. Now looking at the alternator, it's got this recessed threaded portion that you may need to transfer over to your new alternator, or if it comes with it, then you don't. There is a difference in gap there, but that'll readjust as you tighten down the bolts. Alright, I'm going to send the new one in the same way it came out, through the front, underneath. Alright, line up the holes. feed the bolts through, and then we'll tighten it down, and that'll draw that sleeve nut into the housing and tighten down. And then these get tightened to 20 Newton meters. And again, they're They're 13 millimeter heads, so socket, normal socket for those. Then don't forget your electrical connections. I'll leave this ground strap removed until I tighten that nut down. Alright, now that the alternator's all tightened up, I got the serpentine belt back on. It was a little bit easier to do, obviously, with more space in here, so I went ahead and did that. Since now I did not show the disassembly of all this, because it was more in frustration of trying to figure out how to get to the alternator, I'll film the reinstallation of the radiator fan and the components up front here, so you have some idea. You can just reverse the order for removal. So first thing that's going back in, going to be the radiator fan. And the way this locates, there's two tabs on either side. They fit into these little fingers, and then the top ones have a lock and clip, and then over the top you've got 3 tabs as well. So you need to kind of feed it down below these tabs, the lower tabs below the upper finger, and then once beyond that, gotta make sure you get it into the lower one. Should clip right in just like that. Pull up on it. Positive retention, good there. See, the next thing, I'll fasten the 2 bolts across the bottom. They kind of look like this. And that is the intake, black intake tube that goes across the bottom, screwing into the radiator fan shroud. Alright, the next thing I've got is this upper intake pipe, this aluminum one, and it's got 2 T27 bolts that hold it into the driver's side, and that's probably, these are probably the 2 hardest to get to at with all this that you're gonna have to assemble in the front here. The best way I could see is just get a couple extensions for your T27 and then kind of feed them in, maybe with a magnet. Make sure you're routing some of your wiring back in. This part goes underneath here. here, it's just a matter of reconnecting all the silicone hoses and putting the airbox back in, and then that is the job complete. We'll reconnect the battery and give her a go.